Play a piano, any piano. Press every white key from C to the next C above it. Count the notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. 7. 7 notes. 7 distinct pitches that repeat in octaves across the entire range of the instrument. Add the black keys and you get 12 semitones per octave, the complete chromatic scale of Western music. Every piece of music you've ever heard, every song on your phone, every symphony in every concert hall, every melody hummed by every child in the Western world is constructed from these 12 tones, arranged in different sequences, combined in different harmonies, played at different rhythms, but always the same 12 tones, as if music were a language with only 12 letters and every possible sentence had to be spelled from this fixed alphabet. Now ask yourself something you've never been asked. Why 12? Who decided that music contained exactly 12 usable pitches per octave? Who drew the lines between the notes and declared the spaces between them empty? And what was in those spaces before someone decided they were nothing? Because the spaces aren't empty. They never were. And the deeper I went into the history of how Western music was standardized, the more I found that the 12-tone system isn't a discovery of the natural properties of sound. It's a reduction, a compression, a deliberate narrowing of a much wider tonal landscape that human beings inhabited for millennia before a tuning system designed for keyboard instruments was imposed on every ear in the Western world. There were notes between your notes. Notes that don't exist on the piano. Notes that the human voice can sing. That stringed instruments can play. That wind instruments can bend into. That the ear can hear and the body can feel. Notes that every musical tradition outside the Western classical system still uses. Notes that Western music used for centuries before they were eliminated. And the elimination happened at a specific moment, for specific reasons, and the consequences extend far beyond what you'd expect from a change in tuning. Start with what music was before the piano decided what it could be. Before approximately 1700, Western music was not tuned to the system you know. The 12-tone equal temperament that governs every piano, every guitar, every synthesizer, every digital audio workstation on Earth was not the standard. It was one option among several, and it was, for most of music history, considered the worst option, the compromise, the sacrifice, the system you used when you had no better choice. The systems that preceded equal temperament were called just intonation and its variants, Pythagorean tuning, mean tone temperament, systems that tuned each interval, each relationship between two notes, to precise mathematical ratios derived from the natural harmonic series, the physics of vibrating strings and air columns, the ratios that the universe itself produces when a string is divided, a perfect fifth tuned to the ratio 3:2, a perfect fourth tuned to 4:3, a major third tuned to 5:4, each interval pure, resonant, alive with the interference patterns that physicists call beating and that musicians call warmth. And here's what these pure intervals produced that equal temperament eliminated. When two notes are tuned to a pure mathematical ratio, the sound waves align. They reinforce each other. They create a resonance that is not just audible, but physical. You can feel it in your chest, in your skull, in the vibration of the air against your skin. Pure intervals don't just sound different from tempered intervals. They feel different. The body responds differently. The nervous system processes them differently. The experience of hearing a purely tuned fifth is qualitatively distinct from the experience of hearing a tempered fifth, even though the pitch difference between the two is less than 2% of a semitone. This raises a simple but critical question. If pure tuning produces a physically superior sonic experience, why was it abandoned? The silence was deafening, as if they were following instructions they didn't fully understand. The official explanation is practical. Pure tuning has a limitation. When you tune intervals to perfect mathematical ratios in one key, the intervals in distant keys become distorted. A keyboard tuned purely in C major will sound beautiful in C, but increasingly harsh as you move to keys farther away from C on the circle of fifths. By the time you reach F sharp, the intervals are so distorted they're unusable. This is because pure mathematical ratios don't distribute evenly across 12 notes per octave. The math doesn't close. There's a gap, a discrepancy called the Pythagorean comma, a tiny interval of approximately 23 cents that accumulates as you tune through the cycle of fifths, and that makes it impossible to tune all keys purely on a single fixed pitch instrument. Equal temperament solved this problem by distributing the comma evenly across all 12 notes. Every interval was made equally impure. Every fifth was narrowed by the same tiny amount. Every third was widened by the same tiny amount. No interval was pure. No interval was unusable. Every key sounded the same slight impurity, the same slight compromise, the same slight deadness where the resonance used to be. And the deeper I went into the history of this compromise, the more I found that the compromise wasn't universally welcomed. It was resisted, for centuries, by musicians and theorists who understood what was being lost. Go read the writings of the musicians who lived through the transition. The debate over temperament raged across Europe for over 200 years, from the early 1500s through the early 1700s. Theorists wrote treatises arguing against equal temperament. Musicians protested that it destroyed the character of individual keys, that C major and D major, which in mentone temperament had distinct emotional qualities because their intervals were tuned differently, became interchangeable in equal temperament. That the color of music, the term musicians used to describe the unique character of each key, was being bleached out. That the system sacrificed beauty for convenience, that the piano was being optimized at the expense of the ear, and the advocates of equal temperament won, not because their system sounded better, because their system was more compatible with the instrument that was becoming the dominant force in Western music: the keyboard, the piano, the organ. Fixed-pitch instruments that couldn't adjust their tuning note by note the way a violinist or a singer could. The keyboard needed equal temperament because the keyboard couldn't do what the human voice could. It couldn't bend. It couldn't slide. It couldn't find the pure interval by ear and adjust in real time. It was fixed, mechanical, and the tuning system was redesigned to match the limitation of the machine. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision across every investigation I've conducted. A natural system is modified to accommodate a technology. The technology's limitations are imposed on the human experience. The modification is called progress, and the thing that was lost, the thing the natural system provided that the technological system cannot, is erased from cultural memory within a generation. But here's where the story goes deeper than a debate about keyboard tuning. Because the pure intervals that equal temperament eliminated weren't just aesthetically superior. They were, according to every musical tradition that used them, therapeutically active. Go read the ancient texts on music and healing. Not the modern sound healing literature, which is a separate and more recent phenomenon. The ancient sources. Pythagoras, who is credited with discovering the mathematical ratios that govern musical intervals, didn't treat music as entertainment. He treated it as medicine. The Pythagorean school used specific intervals, specific ratios, specific tuning relationships as therapeutic tools, specific modes for specific conditions, specific intervals to calm specific emotional states, specific harmonic relationships to restore specific physiological balances. The deeper I went into the pre-modern understanding of music's therapeutic function, the more I found that the function depended on the purity of the intervals. The healing wasn't in the melody, it wasn't in the rhythm, it was in the resonance, in the physical interaction between sound waves tuned to precise mathematical ratios and the tissues of the body that receive them. Pure intervals create standing waves. Standing waves create resonance patterns in physical materials, including biological tissue. Impure intervals create interference. The difference between a therapeutic sonic experience and a neutral one isn't volume or pitch or duration. It's tuning, purity, the mathematical precision of the relationship between frequencies, and equal temperament destroyed that precision. Every interval in equal temperament is impure. Every frequency relationship is approximate. The resonance patterns that pure tuning creates in physical space, patterns that the ancient traditions described as healing, are disrupted in equal temperament by the slight impurities distributed across every interval. The music doesn't resonate the same way. The body doesn't respond the same way. The therapeutic function that depended on mathematical purity is degraded by a tuning system that sacrificed purity for convenience. Here's where the thread connects to the notes between the notes. The eighth note. Because the ancient tuning systems didn't just tune the 7 notes of the scale differently. They recognized intervals between the standard notes that equal temperament eliminated entirely. Quarter tones. Intervals of approximately 50 cents, half a semitone, notes that sit between the notes of the chromatic scale, notes that don't exist on the piano, notes that the Western ear, trained on equal temperament since birth, hears as out of tune. As mistakes, as the sound of someone playing the wrong note slightly, but that the ears of every other musical tradition on earth recognize as essential components of the tonal landscape. Arabic maqam music uses quarter tones as structural elements of its melodic system. Indian classical music, both Hindustani and Carnatic, recognizes 22 distinct intervals per octave, shrutis, nearly twice the 12 that Western music uses. Turkish music divides the octave into 53 intervals, each carrying a specific emotional and physiological quality. These aren't exotic embellishments added to a 12-tone framework. They're independent tonal systems that divide the octave more finely than Western music because the traditions that developed them recognized that the spaces between the Western notes contain musically and therapeutically significant pitches. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision across every non-Western musical tradition that has been documented. More notes per octave, finer divisions, more tonal colors, more physical resonance, more therapeutic specificity. The 12-tone Western system isn't the universal standard it presents itself as. It's the narrowest tonal vocabulary in the history of human music. Every other tradition on earth uses more notes, hears more intervals, recognizes more sonic territory between the pitches that the piano has taught you are the only pitches that exist. And the traditions that use these additional intervals consistently describe them as having specific physiological effects. Specific maqam modes are prescribed for specific conditions in the Arabic medical tradition. Specific ragas in Indian music are assigned to specific times of day because their tonal content aligns with the body's circadian rhythm at that hour. The additional intervals aren't decoration, they're medicine. Targeted sonic interventions that depend on tonal precision that equal temperament, with its universal impurity, cannot provide. The deeper I went, the more the standardization of Western music to 12 equal tones started to look like the same operation I've found in every other domain. The deletion of the in-between, the removal of the liminal, the 13th month deleted from the calendar, the 5th season deleted from the year, the 8th color deleted from the spectrum, the transitional hours deleted from the clock, and here the notes between the notes deleted from music. Each deletion removes nuance. Each deletion simplifies. Each deletion makes the system more manageable, more institutional, more compatible with mechanical reproduction. And each deletion costs the human being who lives inside the system something that the system's designers didn't value: the felt resonance, the therapeutic specificity, the experience of sonic richness that the body recognizes and that the machine cannot reproduce. Here's what I keep returning to: the physical evidence. Because you can hear the difference right now. Pull up a recording of a purely tuned major chord and an equal tempered major chord played on identical instruments at identical volumes. The pure chord shimmers. It locks into a resonance that the air itself seems to recognize. The tempered chord is close, almost the same, but the shimmer is gone. The lock is loose. The resonance is approximate where it used to be exact. The difference is subtle, but it's there. And your ear knows it, your body knows it. The nervous system that evolved to process sound in a world of pure ratios, the world of wind through reeds and voices in caves and strings stretched across wood, that nervous system can feel the difference between a ratio and an approximation, even if your conscious mind has been trained to call the approximation correct. I'm not telling you to throw away your piano. I'm not telling you that Western music is fraudulent. I'm telling you that the tuning system that governs every note you've ever heard was a compromise designed to accommodate a mechanical instrument's inability to do what the human voice does naturally. That the compromise eliminated the mathematical purity that every ancient tradition identified as the source of music's therapeutic power. That the notes between the notes, the intervals that exist in every other musical tradition on Earth, were deleted from Western music during the exact period when music was being industrialized. When the piano replaced the voice as the primary instrument. When the concert hall replaced the healing chamber. When music stopped being medicine and became entertainment. I'm asking what music sounded like before the compromise. What the body felt when the intervals were pure. What therapeutic applications were possible when the tuning was precise. What the eighth note, the note between the notes, the interval that every other tradition recognizes and that the piano has trained you to hear as a mistake. What that note did to the body and the mind that the 12-tone system can no longer do. I'm asking what your ear would hear if nobody had told it that 12 notes were all there were.